Now, discussing between H1 and H2 chemistry, as mentioned, 30 MCQs in H1 chemistry, which is about 33% weightage. For H2 chemistry, MCQ paper 1, weightage is about 15%. As for paper 2, in H1 chemistry, you have structured questions in section A as well as free response questions in section B, and both will add up to about 67%, which is the rest. However, for H2 chemistry, in your paper 2, you have 30% structured questions. So this is very similar to what you have in, for example, like in your section A for the O levels. And however, your paper 3 free response question, which makes up to 35%. And for your paper 4, which is practical paper, it is the same as O level, which is 20%. Now, how about the assessment objectives? In terms of assessment, both H1 and H2 will test three different things. Number one, which is your knowledge recall. So for example, like how well do you understand what are acid-base salts? And number two, applying and evaluating information. So like we talk about a lot about like you draw information from the graphs and from tables to interpret your answer. And number three is investigation. Basically, you are making deductions. So in terms for H1 weightage, about 40% of the skill would be tested in knowledge and recall. For example, like defining my acids, blah, blah, blah. And 60% would be to obtain data and how well do you evaluate information given to you. As for H2 weightage, it is slightly different. You will see that for the first, which is recalling of knowledge, it is about 32%. And for the second skill, which is to interpret data, it is about 48%. We have one more, which is experimental skills and investigation. So you'll realize that H1 chemistry doesn't really test that. So it's just 40%, 60% for the first two skills. However, for H2 chemistry, you would actually be tested much more rigorously, which is a 20% about there of the paper for investigation and deductions of skills. So what about H3 chemistry? So